Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the kind invitation to come and speak today. I'm Paul Hastings, and I am the EVP of Sales and Marketing for a company called Friend MTS. And what I've been asked to speak about today is about the problems of piracy and streaming piracy facing our industry, and how can we take steps to mitigate that problem and ultimately convincingly tackle it. So, wouldn't expect everybody here to know very much about Friend MTS, so I'll take an opportunity to just give you a very quick overview and hopefully give you some reason to believe what I'm talking about from the experiences that we have as a business. I'd also then like to talk about the challenge of streaming piracy that faces the business. And then ultimately, what's the solution? What should we be doing to put this right? So, Friend MTS, we are a full-service anti-piracy agency based in the UK, but with customers around the world, and I'll share with some of those in a moment. And our focus is to be able to provide services to pay TV operators, to broadcasters, and to content rights owners. The three parts of our system that underpin all of the services that we provide are global monitoring, so the ability to actually find streams in the first place, making use of video fingerprinting to make sense of those streams automatically and rapidly at scale, and then most importantly at the end of the line is enforcement. How do we go about removing streams of premium sports content either directly or indirectly? So our customer base is many and varied, and whilst I'm here to talk about streaming in the context of live sports, we have customers around the world who are also making use of our services for premium entertainment content. But as you can see, we stretch from the United States down into South America, across Europe, and stretching into Southeast Asia, which is a market of great interest for us, largely because it has great problems, reflecting the problems that are faced in other markets around the world. We also have the world's most widely deployed subscriber identification watermarking system called ACID. That's now running in tens of millions of devices and set-top boxes around the world, catching pirates and terminating their streams in real time. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the presentation. I'm surprised I'm looking so fresh-faced, which I'm sure you will agree, after our very enjoyable evening on Sunday night, where we were honoured by the Emmy Awards for our technology. So we were very proud to receive that. It's a big thing for an organisation of our size, and a great honour to have the technology reflected, especially as we're being proposed by customers of many years for the award. So we were very, very proud, and we actually got to see a lot of people in the TV industry with ties on, which you never ever see. So we were very, very pleased about that. So to frame the problem, streaming piracy, how big is the issue? What are the steps that our customers can take to protect that content, and ultimately, is it a winnable battle? Premium sports is hugely, hugely valuable, as we all know. If you just look at the rights, the fees that are paid for the rights for the NFL, the NBA, the English Premier League, La Liga, all around the world, premium sports is the hook on which the pay TV industry hangs its coat. It's the one thing that actually drives the majority of subscription revenue. Not necessarily the largest number of subscribers, but the largest amount of subscription revenue. The big issue with sports is obviously it's very much of the now. I'm interested in the results of the game that I'm watching right now because I don't know what's going to happen. Once the game's finished, the value of that content diminishes rapidly over time. So yeah, we all want to see highlights packages, etc. But the reality is that the value is in the now. It's in the value is in the consumption in the moment. Piracy itself affects every single part of the value chain. So the rights owners are affected. The broadcasters who have paid the rights to be able to access that content are affected. And then obviously the pay TV operators who exist as a result of the subscription revenue that they generate, they're affected as well. So it really does impact everybody along the chain. I think one of the things that maybe people don't quite understand is the scale of the piracy problem in live sports. So we have a global monitoring platform which is looking every single day for streams that are available on pirate IPTV services, websites, Kodi plugins, mobile apps. And we are literally simultaneously monitoring thousands of unique streams around the world of content which is being stolen from pay TV platforms and OTT platforms and redistributed for consumption on devices by people who are not paying for it. Well, who are not paying the legitimate owners for it. They may well be paying the pirates for access to that content at a reduced price. Many people say, well, doesn't DRM solve this? Doesn't conditional access solve this? DRM and CA are absolutely vital components in the delivery of a secure system for a secure signal of sports content or indeed any other content. But it's only part of the solution. DRM and CA are responsible for ensuring that the content arrives securely, leaving the broadcaster and arriving at the client device. But once it arrives at the client device, the job is done. The video is converted, the signal is converted back into video, and then the consumer can do with it as they will. And in most cases, it's just sit back and enjoy the show. But with a lot of pirates, it's actually taking that content, packaging it up, and restreaming it for consumption on illegal pirate websites and pirate IPTV services. One of the things that we emphasize over and over and over again is that you, as a broadcaster or as a content owner, content distributor, you can't just look at one part of your distribution infrastructure. We use an analogy of home security. You can't just think by putting a really big heavy lock on your front door that your house is secure, because your front of your house has windows, you have a back door, you have windows at the back as well. You have to make sure that you are applying the same level of security to each of those windows and doors as you do to the primary entry into the house, because otherwise the burglar is just going to walk around the back and he's going to come into your house. The same thing, absolutely the same thing applies to pay TV distribution. There's no point just dealing with a problem that you're facing on a set-top box. You've also got to look at your OTT platforms and make sure that the OTT platform and the pay TV traditional broadcast platform have exactly the same level of security, because the pirates will just look for the weakest point to be able to access your content. And those flaws become evident very, very quickly. The other thing that you need to consider and recognize is that the pirates themselves are running pay TV operations in direct competition with the legitimate subscribers. So we see pirates who are distributing their streams in formats that are suitable for consumption on mobile devices, on tablets, on desktops. And the biggest threat of all, obviously, for pay TV subscribers, or sorry, pay TV operators, is signals that are targeted at either Kodi plugins or pirate IPTV set-top boxes that can be consumed on the big screen in the living room, basically in direct competition with a legitimate subscription. So the pirates themselves are getting much more sophisticated in their delivery, much more sophisticated in the quality of the service that they're delivering to customers. And it's a real issue that needs to be faced by the pay TV industry as a whole. There's also an enormous number of channels that are available. I talked about those thousands of streams. One of the issues for broadcasters in competition with the pirates is that the pirates aren't bound by the same licensing rules as pay TV operators in each market. You have a very, in the USA, you have ESPN carrying sports, you have NBC, you have CBS carrying those sports. And they've paid a lot of money for the rights for exclusivity in this market. The problem is the pirates don't respect that exclusivity. So coming into the US, you will also have Fox sports channels from South America. You will have broadcasters from Europe where their content is available. So actually, you're not competing like for like. The content offering for the pirates sometimes is actually much better than the legitimate offering that's being made by the local provider. And there's nothing that the local provider can do themselves other than take action against those streams to try to have them removed from the illegal providers. The other thing, I think often people kid themselves, well, this is a pretty rubbish experience, your device isn't going to be very good, the user interface is going to be poorly constructed. Absolutely not. Some of these pirate services are as polished as the legitimate services that they're competing against. They really are terrifyingly good. There's some very good UX designers out there who aren't working for the main providers. So the consumer is getting an experience where they've got multiple channels delivered to a big screen in their home, and they've got an excellent user interface to be able to deliver it. So this is a pretty major problem that needs to be faced. The extent that the extent of the problem is one that I genuinely think piracy is potentially an existential threat to the pay TV industry, and that's a big sort of loud phrase. And you'd say, well, you would say that because you're an anti-piracy, so it's in your interest to big up the problem. The issue is that there is an entire generation of teenagers, or several generations of teenagers who've moved into young adulthood, who have experience and expertise at finding the content that they want at any time, on any device, and they're not paying the expected subscriptions to be able to access that. As they get older, the existing pay TV generation, of which I'm one, we're not going to be around forever paying our subscriptions. You need new blood and new money coming in at the bottom and starting that process. These millennials are not doing that because they think, why should I pay for it? I know I can get it in the format that I want. I know I can get it without paying, or paying much less than the legitimate subscribers would want, the legitimate owners would want you to pay. So it's a huge, huge issue that needs to be faced and tackled, because without it, without the subscribers coming in, pay TV dies. And without pay TV services, content dies. So it's a major issue for the industry as a whole. Bandwidth obviously is a big issue as well. The increasing amount of bandwidth that's coming into people's homes means that you can stream multiple streams into your own house, watch them on multiple different devices. That applies to pirate content as much as content that's being delivered from the legitimate subscribers. So this is always a bit wary of putting a graph up on a presentation, but this is a very an aggregated snapshot of information that's captured from our global monitoring platform. And the reason this is of interest, this shows a range of bit rates and resolutions that are being received from a single event from multiple different sources. And you can see that there are two distinct spikes here. So there's a spike here around the sort of 350 mark, which is where you're getting mobile devices and tablet devices for consumption. But the big one is this one here, 720. Now, the august engineers here would probably tell me now that that's not HD. Well, I'm old enough to remember when 720 was HD and was considered HD, and it's certainly good enough for pirate services to be considered HD if you're not paying for it. So you can see there that basically there is the major amount of streams are targeted at the big screen in people's homes in direct competition with pay TV operators. So what's happening in the market and what's changing? One of the big things that we've noticed is that the impact of streaming piracy is meaning that the content owners themselves, the sports leagues, are recognizing that they need to change the way in which they approach piracy. Historically, it's always been a way the pay TV operators have looked back at the content owners and saying, hey, content is being pirated, it's your responsibility to sort this out because you've offered me exclusivity in my market. Now, there's absolutely some logic in that. Where the practical element falls down is that the content owners are probably the people in the worst position to actually do anything about it. They don't know who the end subscriber is. They don't have a direct relationship with the person who's consuming this content. So what's happening now is that the sports leagues themselves are starting to push the responsibility for content protection down the chain to pay TV operators. So in the new license, the new contracts that a number of our partners as content owners are putting into place with their broadcasters around the world, there is a new security schedule in there, and that security schedule expects higher standards of responsibility for the pay TV operators, and some of those things include watermarking and subscriber level identification. So, painted a big scary picture. We're all going to hell in a handcart. Is there anything that we can do about it? Absolutely. There are solutions in the marketplace, and there are processes in the marketplace that can assist pay TV operators with this problem. First thing, you need to be able to find the streams. There are streams of video content that are, as I said, targeted at IPTV, targeted at websites, all in different formats from sites around the world. But you've got to be able to capture that. As a broadcaster, you have to be able to find the streams in the first place to be able to do something about it. And you have to be able to do that across all content types. So SD, HD, and increasingly 4K. The scale of the amount of piracy means that this is something that no longer can be dealt with by manual processes. In days of yore, certain services were offered by people which effectively put loads of students in a room, Googling, looking for sites, sending DMCA takedown notices. That doesn't scale. The amount, the volume of streams, the amount of piracy is now at such a point that you need to be able to have automated processes in place for capturing those streams, whether they're being delivered from cable, IPTV, satellite, or OTT, whether it's live content or on-demand content as well. So you need to be able to have something that scales and can deal with volume. And you're consuming all of this content into a system, you're capturing all of this video. How do you then make sense of it? How do you categorize which are streams that you as a broadcaster need to protect and which are those that belong to other broadcasters around the world and maybe you don't have such an interest in protecting? And that's where things like video fingerprinting can be used. So video fingerprinting is a technology which allows you to very rapidly compare a reference video stream with video streams that are captured from the internet and be able to identify them in real time and at volume. So that's another element that you need to be able to apply to the service. And then finally, you need to be able to do something about it. So what is the what's the best route to be able to solve that problem? Well, for pay TV operators, where you have a direct relationship with the end customer, it's subscriber level watermarking. So in this scenario, you are able to uniquely tag each stream that is being delivered to each customer. So you would have a different tag in your stream, you would have a different tag in your stream, and you would have a different tag in your stream. Completely invisible, no knowledge to the end consumer, but if you then choose to redistribute that content, the technology exists to be able to remove those streams in real time. It's also a much more attractive process because if you're using a watermark that's invisible, then you're not having perhaps older school methods of flashing receiver fingerprints and subscriber numbers up on the screen, which really do impact the consumer experience. It's not something that someone who's paying premium money for access to those channels and that content. You don't want big black numbers appearing on the screen. So subscriber level watermarking using invisible watermarking allows you to be able to do that. Antonio, who was on before me, was talking about the importance of legacy devices. Pay TV operators have invested hundreds of millions, billions in set-top boxes and devices that allow people to consume content in their home. So if you are going to deploy a service that has subscriber level watermarking in, it has to be able to be deployed to older set-top boxes. And it has to be able to offer that to new set-top boxes as they come online as well. And you won't be surprised to know that everything I've been talking about is available now, and it's available from Friend MTS as a provider. There are other people in the market who are providing very good pieces of technology to deliver elements of the security process, but there isn't another vendor around who is actually be able to provide an end-to-end service where all of those elements, the global monitoring, the video fingerprinting for rapid identification, and then the subscriber level watermarking for both set-top box and for OTT is available right now. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I'd be delighted to have anybody who is interested come down to the booth at South Upper 12007. We're just down on the right, and thank you very much for your time.